More phone calls coming up. 877-3DP show. Mike McCarthy, front office sports senior media reporter and tuned in columnist, joining us on the program. Mike, thanks for joining us. What did ESPN buy from NFL Network?
I think they bought themselves an insurance policy, Dan. I think when you look at the future and you see streamers like Apple coming in, it's going to be a lot harder for NFL to get rid of ESPN or take away their Monday night package if they're actual equity partners together. So I think that's one thing. I think number two, they bought a huge selling point for their new direct-to-consumer platform. Red Zone, NFL Network, NFL programming. This is the beachfront property that we all want. So I think those are the two big things.
Anybody else consider this move, buying NFL Network?
Yeah, they talked to a lot of people, and only ESPN, came up and stepped up to the table. And I think there's going to be a lot of grousing, Dan, amongst the other media partners. Is ESPN going to get favored nation treatment? Are they going to get a better game schedule? Are they going to get more Super Bowls? But, I think the NFL's answer to that will be tough. You had your chance. And just like the NFL TV partners passed on Thursday Night Football and it ended up on Amazon, they had their chance and they didn't go for it.
Does Fox have a gripe about this? Does NBC have a gripe? Will they, as you said, it feels like the NFL is going to give preferential treatment to ESPN and as a result of this deal.
I think they will have a gripe. I think there's going to be grumbling. I think there's going to be some, working of the referees, as it were, Dan, to try to make sure everybody gets favored nation status. But in the end, the NFL doesn't care. The NFL makes up the rules. They play by their own rules. And, if they don't like it, they can go pound sand.
So in 3 years from now, Stephen A. Smith is handing out the Lombardi Trophy.
Well, actually, I was hoping you would do it, Dan.
I'm not going back to the mothership, but... maybe Rich Eisen can, because exactly. It would be awesome if Chris Berman got to hand out a Super Bowl trophy in his career.
Well, that was one of my favorite stories recently, was ESPN extending Boomer through his 50th year at the mothership and making sure he's part of the Super Bowl. As you know, Dan, ESPN has wanted the Super Bowl since its founding. They've got a countdown clock there on Bristol, ticking away the time until 2027. So it's going to be big for them.
I remember when I was up there, what was that, the 45th anniversary? And I was talking to Jimmy Pitaro, and I said, don't let Chris Berman disappear. Don't let him disappear. The network owes him. Make sure you keep him on prime time. And you know what he did? He said, I really appreciate you telling me that. I said, this is what Chris lives for. This is important to him. And I truly mean that. What he's meant, he's the most important person in the history of ESPN because of what he's done for that place and continues to do it. So if he got a chance to hand out the Super Bowl trophy, the only problem is they would have to tell Chris, you got to speed up, though. You can't be, spending a lot of time. Time is money. Get the trophy, do your interviews, and then send it back up to the booth.
That's right. That's right. He's got to get it. He's got to get it together and do it fast. But I mean, you're right. I mean, NFL primetime was so influential back in the day. For the internet and all the rest of it. That's how we got our highlights. That's how we checked out our fantasy football players, and we lived and died by that show.
Talking to Mike McCarthy, it's front office sports senior media reporter. I brought up the conflict of interest with the mothership and the NFL. I don't know if it matters. They own 10% of ESPN now. ESPN has been a partner with NFL forever anyway. I mean, this is now it just becomes official. Is there any thought to that from ESPN's side of this, of the optics of how this looks?
I was asking them about it today, and they don't see it as a problem. I mean, ESPN is already paying $2.7 billion a year for Monday Night Football rights, which is far more than any other media reporter. As a journalist, does it concern me? Yes. But I think these issues come under the heading of the horses out of the barn. We're not going back to the days where ESPN is going to do playmakers or do something that's going to tick off Paul Tagliabue or Roger Goodell. They know that the NFL is where it's at, and they want to stay on the good side of the NFL.
The future of Red Zone is
Future of Red Zone is not going to change. Thank you. Scott Hansen will continue to host the Red Zone. They will continue to produce the show, NFL Network. However, here's the real wrinkle in this, Dan, is ESPN gets the rights to the Red Zone brand. So they will, in the future, be able to do future Red Zones for other league partners. Now, if I'm ESPN, I'm going to the NBA right now and saying, I want to do a Red Zone for the NBA, especially with Amazon and NBC breathing down my neck this fall.
Well, they would have the licensing for Red Zone, you're saying?
That's right. That's right. And they would be able to create a Red Zone for the NBA, a Red Zone for the NHL, possibly a Red Zone for college football, and ESPN would own those new rights going forward.
Great work. Keep it up, Mike. Great to talk to you again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Dan.
That's Michael McCarthy. He's a front office sports senior media reporter. All right, it's interesting. But once again, some of it is kind of inside TV, and that's where I want to kind of figure out what it's going to mean to us, the consumer. The cord cutting, that was a big reason why Mothership was trying to, how do we ensure ourselves that we're going to continue to be worth whatever it is. I think 3 years ago, $26 billion the valuation was with the Mothership. Now you add this, and it feels like NFL Network, or they finally get a home. ESPN gets more programming and a better relationship with the league, and the league gets more distribution.